A founder once described one of his managers to me with a kind of admiration that sort of masked an issue that was actually going on. He's intense, he said, but he's right. He's almost always right. And that's what makes this one so difficult to see, because the work really is going well. There's fewer mistakes, tighter execution, even cleaner thinking. And on the surface, it looks like really great leadership. But underneath, something quieter has begun to form, and that's what we were talking about. See, when I coach leaders, I talk about 4 dark sides that show up under pressure. One of them is what I call the critic. Now, the critic is usually a high performer. They see gaps instantly. They're highly engaged. They notice what others miss. Their brain is calibrated to detect flaws and to be able to close them quickly. And that instinct likely made them successful in the very first place. But the problem is not that they see what's wrong. The problem is that they rarely stop to consider what their constant correction is producing in the person that's across from them. See, try to put yourself into the room and try to imagine what is actually happening in the situation. When every interaction centers on what could have been tighter or sharper or better thought through, something begins to happen internally for the employee. It's kind of subtle at first. They don't storm out, they don't quit, but they do begin to question themselves more than they question the work. They replay conversations. They pay more attention to the tone that's being said. They anticipate criticism before it ever even arrives, and they start bringing drafts only after they've been revised 3 times in private. And they stop testing their early ideas out loud because early ideas have begun to feel kind of unsafe. And over time, their confidence erodes because they've learned that independent judgment will almost always be met with some form of correction. And then something happens that you don't want. They begin asking for help more often. So they say things like, hey, can you take a look at this? Is this what you were thinking? Would you do it any differently than I've done it here? Now, see, from the manager's perspective, this can actually feel affirming if you're the manager that likes to have some control. It can even feel like progress. And there's this quiet sense of being needed. It's a subtle reinforcement of the belief that without close oversight by my part, things won't reach the standard. But what's actually forming is dependence. The team member isn't growing stronger, they're growing more cautious. And this is the part founders need to pay attention to. An overly critical leader does not produce excellence over the long term. What they do produce is insecurity. They produce hesitation. They produce teams that wait to be told rather than teams that think on their own. Now, the critic, and this is important, the critic believes they are protecting the standard. But in reality, they may be shrinking the very people who are supposed to carry it forward. Now, this isn't about lowering expectations or avoiding hard conversations. It's about what is the posture. A coach corrects the work, yes, but they are equally attentive to what that correction is doing to the person. They understand that performance and dignity aren't competing values, they are interdependent values. And if your leadership consistently leaves people technically sharper, but maybe internally they feel smaller, you have not built strength, you've built reliance. And reliance can look efficient in the short term. However, it does not build your business. So the question isn't whether your high-performing manager is right. The question is whether the people around them are becoming braver. Are they becoming more capable and more confident over time? Or are they becoming more dependent on that one high-performing manager? Now, that distinction matters more than most founders actually realize. So here's something that you can do this week. Attend a meeting or walk the floor and watch how your managers are interacting with their people and ask yourself this question. Are my strongest leaders producing strength in others, or are they actually creating dependence on themselves? And that's worth thinking about today.